know what? I don't think that I've actually experienced writer's block. So I've been doing, obviously during lockdown, I've been working my full-time job, but I was finishing the copy edits for my first book and also had to finish the first draft of my second book. So I think being motivated by deadlines, having something in place and knowing I can't actually like not write, I need to get it done. So I think that definitely gave me a kick up the backside to make sure that I got the words down on the page. So no, I haven't experienced writer's block. One thing I would say though is that when I'm writing, I've definitely experienced like a dialogue block. And I was talking to this with another author the other day, because basically I just felt when I was writing dialogue in my draft, everything was so stunted. And I don't know if that's because I've not really talked to many people this year other than my parents and my boyfriend. So it's like kind of forgetting how to write dialogue. So no, like whole stories and everything, writer's block, not an issue. But I've definitely noticed a problem with writing like dialogue that is authentic. It's been positive in terms of having more time, but I'm aware that having more time doesn't necessarily equate to having the right headspace. Because obviously, you know, being kind of not being able to go anywhere, of course that affects people mentally. So I think if you're able to be in the right headspace, then absolutely, because, you know, so I live in Essex, but I like my commute, my job, our offices were based in Tottenham Court Road, so that was a long commute in the morning. And so, you know, I used to like write on the notes on my phone, which was a bit stressful, but now it's better because I can wake up a bit earlier and actually do some writing. So I definitely am able to kind of fit more writing into like my day-to-day
schedule.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that kind of lockdown has, in a way. Yeah, it has been positive. And also I would say weekends as well. I mean, obviously it's different because again, it's not like we can go anywhere or do loads of stuff, kind of normal weekend activities. So I haven't been too harsh on myself, because I think it's easy to feel guilty if you've got that free time and you're not writing. But I'm definitely trying to carve out like a couple of hours each day, whether that's Saturday morning or Saturday evening or Sunday morning, to actually dedicate time to writing. So yeah, I think it's been positive in terms of me actually, rather than trying to fit in my writing around the day, I like fit the day in around the. I'm definitely someone that gets a lot of ideas and then you write them down or whatever, or you have a dream and then you wake up and you just reread it again and you're like, no, this does not have legs. But I wouldn't say I have a writing routine. It's a bit all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah, quite free.
Actually, my first book in the series, that's not published until like September or October, and I wrote that one pre-pandemic times, but writing the first draft of book 2 I did kind of last year, so obviously that was during the thick of it. And it is hard to find a headspace, I think, especially when I guess it depends on what you're writing about. Mine's kind of historical fiction, so I guess it's easier in that I'm not taking like you know, inspiration from day-to-day life. I mean, there's loads of resources online, you know, kind of journals that you can read, like, you know, looking on even like Pinterest, finding like photos from the 1920s and things like that. So I think kind of for the writing that I'm doing at the moment, there's a lot of really useful stuff online that I haven't needed to perhaps, you know, get out and about and go somewhere. I can kind of, you know, even if it's just like some of mine's like is set in Paris, and so I'm like on Google Maps and just reminding myself of street names and things like that, and just, you know, zooming in on a building to like remind myself kind of what it looks like. So I can't imagine so many authors would be writing a book that's going to be set in last year. I mean, I know there's like loads of like kind of lockdown kind of romance stories that I've seen are being published, but I think authors, I know some authors are just trying to like avoid it altogether. So if they're writing contemporary, you know, if writing like a young adult contemporary fiction, they're kind of setting it in 2009, or just being ambiguous with the year, but very clearly not 2020. So yeah, it's kind of finding ways to like work around that, isn't it? Actually reading The Gilded Ones, which is a new YA, I don't know if you've seen, by Namita Fauna. It's kind of like a YA fantasy setting based on, I think it's loosely based on kind of like Sierra Leone, because that's where the author was from originally. But that's quite like a high fantasy, which is quite nice. I've not read any in a while, so it's nice to kind of, that's the kind of fiction that is obviously extra enjoyable right now because you can just escape into it. So I'm reading that currently. So yeah, I recommend that one as YA. And then I read a lot of like Japanese. Well, I really love Japan, so I read a lot of like Japanese fiction. And there's this one called Out that I finished reading a few months ago by someone. She's an author called Natsu Karino, I think, and that was really good. But I was just like set in Tokyo, so I'm kind of noticing that I'm just reading books that are kind of set in other places, kind of like international.
So you're kind of traveling with books, through books, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what, you know, the best kind of books. It doesn't necessarily have to be another country, but I mean, at the moment, yeah, I'm definitely finding it so nice to just read a book that's set in like Tokyo or Sierra Leone or, you know, Morocco, these places that can't get to at the moment. So yeah, I could go on for a long time, but I think them the two that like stay in my mind most recently.
Okay, thanks. That was really, really helpful.